What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Or welcome if it's your first time here. You know, guys, there's been a long-standing debate or conversation in the prepper community about what we should do with our unprepared neighbors. And most of us have unprepared neighbors. In fact, I would wager to guess that the majority of us have way more neighbors who are unprepared than neighbors that are prepared. And the debate has been, you know, should you feed those neighbors? Should you help those neighbors? Should you give those neighbors cure packages? Should you try to train those neighbors in prepping? Should you talk to those neighbors about prepping? And, you know, unfortunately, there's no easy answer, because if your neighbors aren't prepping now, they probably ain't going to. And if you can talk until you're blue in the face and reason and beg and plead to try to get those neighbors to prepare, and most likely they won't. They'll keep their head in the sand for as long as possible, and they will follow it away in the back of their mind that you try to get them to prepare. You try to get them to stockpile food. You try to get them to raise a garden. And instead of doing anything, they'll put that back in their mind and remember that you have food, that you have a garden. And if things do get bad, they're reasoning in their own mind, they will come to your house and take what you have or beg you for food. And unfortunately, you know, if you do decide to help your neighbors and you have care packages set up and you give those out, those neighbors will use those up and they'll be back. They'll want more. And most likely they'll bring more people with them. They'll bring more family. They'll bring more neighbors. And the food storage you have isn't going to last very long trying to feed your whole community. Now, if you have a neighbor that is actually a prepper, that is actually prepared, that is ready, just like you are, that's a great thing to have. It's a great ally to have. But unfortunately, that's not the reality for the majority of preppers. The majority of preppers are surrounded by people who haven't prepared, who have nothing, and who refuse to actually prepare. And if you try to feed those neighbors, you try to help those neighbors, instead of being grateful, instead of being thankful, instead of actually trying to help you, trying to pay you back for your generosity, they will decide that if you stop giving, they'll come and take what you have. And more than likely, they will bring more neighbors. They'll get together with other neighbors and say, this guy over here has a whole bunch of food. I know, he fed us before, so he's got more. We're here starving. So let's get together. Let's get all of our guns we have, all the people we have, and let's go to his house and take what he has. Right now, you know, when times are bad, but they're not in a complete, in the world we know it type situation, a raw situation, people are already starting to steal things. People are starting to steal gasoline. People are stealing what they can get their hands on, they can resell. So why do you think that if they know you have food, that they won't come and try to take what you have? You know, this is talking about a worst case scenario where all food has been cut off. If it's a short-term disaster, you know, like a freak freeze incident like was in Texas the winter before last, help your neighbors. If you have a generator, if you have gasoline, you can invite your neighbors over to your house. If you have, you know, heat, invite those neighbors over and take care of your neighbors if you can. But don't put yourself in danger trying to help those neighbors. Don't think that those neighbors won't turn on you very, very quickly. If you have and they don't have, they will try to take, especially in a long-term situation, and especially if something happened to completely cut the food supply off very quickly. People are going to go crazy. People are going to get violent. They know you have something, they're going to come and try to take that something away from you. And if that means killing you, killing your family, they will. Because when people get desperate, they will do desperate things. And I've seen a lot of comments, you know, on these videos, people who refuse to prep, and they say they will eat their neighbors. It's crazy. You think about that for a minute now, guys. You take someone that is so against prepping, so against actually buying a few extra bags of rice, putting back some beans and some canned food. They're so against that and refuse to do that, that they would rather murder their neighbors and resort to cannibalism. Think about that. That is how psychotic a lot of people are. That is how crazy a lot of people are. So you need to have plans what to do with your neighbors. Know now, in each situation, you know what you're going to do. You want to be 3 steps ahead, as the saying goes. And you need to know what type of situation, what type of collapse, what type of disaster you help your neighbors in, and what type you won't. It's going to be a long-term disaster if it's sudden and you help your neighbors. And you know there's no more food to get, for example. The shelves are empty. It's going to be that way for a long time. Then your neighbors who aren't prepared, they will come back and try to take what you have, most likely. They won't get together. They won't form a community. They won't help, especially not at first. Guys, it's long been my contention that if you want to see what actually happens in economic collapse and a disaster, look at history. It's not exact because now we have more people on Earth. People are more spoiled, especially here in the U.S. So it's not an exact science. We can get a better understanding of how people react and what happens, you know, during a disaster, long-term and short-term, by looking at history. If you watch movies, if you read prepper novels, you'll see a dramatized version of a collapse. And if you have that type of collapse where everything is cut off very quickly, then your neighbors are going to be very dangerous. If it's a slow collapse, which is what I expect, and the shelves get more empty slowly, and I think here in the U.S. there's going to still be some food available if you can afford that. I don't think it's going to be complete, total, no food at all, famine here in the U.S. It's not that way, you know, in Ethiopia. People starve, people go hungry, people are malnourished, but I don't think it's going to be a complete cutoff here in the U.S. I could be wrong. Hopefully, you know, hopefully I'm not, but I could be wrong, but I don't think so. I think it's going to be a long collapse. It's going to get more and more severe. There's going to be less selection in the supermarket. There's going to be less items to have. There's going to be food riots, I think, especially in the urban areas. There's going to be huge price increases. And there's going to be food rationing because they want to be able to control the people through that food. But you need to figure out now, you know, what you're going to do with your neighbors, if you're going to help those neighbors, and what situation you'll help those neighbors in. Short term, I suggest you help your neighbors. You know, if it's a power outage, the power will come back on in a few hours, a week or two, you help your neighbors and help your neighbors. If, you know, your neighbors broke down beside the road with a flat tire, stop and help. There's no reason you shouldn't, as long as you don't put yourself and your family in danger. If helping someone, your neighbors, your community, puts you in danger, then don't do it. Stay reserved, stay hidden, keep your mouth shut, and stay out of the limelight as much as possible. That's my advice, guys. If you enjoyed the video, thought it was useful, give it a big thumbs up, greatly appreciate it. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video, hopefully.